Welcome, listeners. Welcome, viewers. Welcome to another edition of To The Point. Today being Tuesday, the 27th day of February 2024. Good morning to those of you viewing GBN TV, whether you're viewing Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20. Good morning. Also to my social media listeners and viewers, those of you via the Facebook page, YouTube channel, those of you who are listening and viewing via GBN's webpage, gbn.gd. Good morning and welcome. I'm your host, the GT, and welcome to this edition of The Point once again. It's Opposition Tuesday, and representing the opposition this morning is Mr. Nimrod Olliverre. Let's go over and say good morning to you, sir. Good morning and welcome to The Point. Actually, first time I've ever seen you on The Point. Welcome. Good morning to you.
Thank you very much, GT, and good morning to you and all your listeners out there in listener land.
All right. Well, welcome this morning, and nice to have you on the program this morning representing. Let's get the conversation rolling. You have a background in law enforcement, and tell us something about your background in law enforcement before we get into the conversation that we want to get into this morning.
And so, yes, well, I was a member of the NYPD. I served 23 years with NYPD. I rose to the rank of lieutenant. And I, so from 1997, retired in 2020 and moved back to Grenada from 2020. I also served in the U.S. military, 23 years. I did 2 years active duty and 21 years reserve duty. And I also had a couple deployments to the Middle East, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, just to name a few. So,
all right.
In a nutshell.
All right. Well, nice to have you this morning. And with the background that you of course, stated this morning, it will, of course, serve to put a little bit of emphasis into our conversation this morning that we're going to be having. The growing concern about crime situation in Grenada, the increase in gun violence and so forth. We have a release the other day from the opposition leader. I'm certainly going to try to read that release shortly before we get into the conversation, and of course probably get your synopsis of the release and what you're thinking from the opposition point of view. Let me get that release, probably take a read of it, and then after we get into the conversation, let me see if I could get that all popped up here and see if we could get that release. Hope I'm make a good use of it this morning. Grenadians, Caracunians, and the Petit Martinicans. Now, in moments like this, when the shadow of crime, in particular gun violence, stretches across our beautiful Grenada, the call for strong leadership echoes louder than ever. It's a call that demands more than just attention. It requires action, empathy, and steadfast commitment to the values that bind us as a community and a nation. In the gentlest of terms, the silence from our current leader is the face of a growing wave of violence is both noticeable and a bit worrying. The distressing events that have unfolded in our communities serve as a reminder of the crucial need for thoughtful, proactive leadership. This situation is bigger than merely addressing the influx of illegal firearms in touch of a deeper, more profound understanding and co-management and affairs of our country. That's just part of the release there this morning. From your perspective, I'm assuming that you may have spoken to Dr. Mitchell. Tell us about this particular release, what it feels to you.
Well, as Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell stated in the release, there's a void, there's a leadership void. And so I think him being the elder statesman and former Minister of National Security recognized the need to step up and to speak to the nation and to let them know that, look, this is going on. There is an issue going on in our country where there is an increase in crimes, there's an increase in gun violence, there's an increase in violence overall, and so we have to do something about it. To be silent, I don't want to say to be silent is complicit, because I don't believe the administration is complicit, but to be silent and to assume that, well, if we don't talk about it, it's going to go away, it's wrong. So the New National Party, under the leadership leadership of Dr. Mitchell felt it necessary to come forward and to let the nation know that, look, the new National Party recognizes the issue, recognizes the problem, and we are here with you to ensure that we address it, and going forward, we need to get to the bottom of this problem.
Now, let's get a wee bit in terms of the recent developments in Grenada as you see it from your personal view. Tell how do you think about the recent developments in terms of the crime situation in Grenada?
Well, look, crime is crime is going to happen. There is no such thing as zero crime. What we do and how prepared for when it happens speaks volume of the administration. So we cannot sit back and say, well, we know it's going to happen, but what do you expect me to do? No, especially if we are forewarned. Forewarned meaning that we see the trend. Because crime does have patterns. There's trends. And so what you do in preparation to help mitigate the issues when it hit home is very, very important. It's alarmingly disturbing, some of the trends. Look, Grenada, to me, hands down, let me just state that, right? Grenada is still one of the best places to be on this earth. I'm not just saying in the Caribbean. It's also one of the safest islands or country in the world, right? But we have to ensure that safety remains. We have to ensure that the police, that the ones that are tasked with keeping the shores of Grenada very safe, are provided with the proper tools to ensure that. If we just allow chaos to reign, we will soon lose what we are well known for.
All right. Now tell me, your views on the authorities' method of dealing with current situations that we are of course are going through. Your views on that.
I'm a bit baffled. Because I do believe some of the gentlemen in the executive they have been around long enough. They do have the qualities to execute. So it's telling me as if there's no plan, and or if they are not implementing the plan, because again, not dealing with the issues, not confronting it, not equipping your police officers and others with the means of dealing with the issue creates a fundamental problem, and we are seeing it. I believe the vast majority or a vast number of police officers are a bit demoralized because there's no leadership. And the leadership is not strong enough. The police needs to operate from a position of strength. That strength comes from the policies that are set and given to them by the government. And you have a strong leader that's there to support his subordinates and to provide the means for them to take care of the policing needs of the nation.
You mentioned something earlier that kind of got my mind a little bit tripping a little bit on that. You said we don't talk about it with the issue of thinking, well, it may go away. And are you getting that feeling from the authorities for some way or the other in terms of how we see the limited information that are shared sometimes in terms of their knowledge of what is going on? The limited information is shared. We don't say nothing about it, and probably that will go.
Well, I'm getting the feeling, one, and they have also said it. There's at least 2 press conferences which I listened to, and the whole thinking is where we call another nation and say, well, that nation don't talk about their crime, so maybe we should have that. Well, they do well in tourism because they don't talk about their crime. Hey, that might have worked for some countries or some nations in the Caribbean hemisphere some time ago, but with the advent of social media, which is readily at our tip, it's very hard not to recognize the problem. I mean, you have perpetrators actually filming their crimes and putting it in social media. So when I as a citizen see that, and what I'm not seeing is the police or hearing a release from the police saying, well, okay, we did this, and we get it. We know that the police is not going to bring us up to date with every arrest and every solution that they have. But at the same time, you have to reassure the public. How do you reassure the public? You have to tamper down the fear. Because people would tend, well, if I'm not hearing from the police, hey, I might want to protect myself. I might want to protect my family, because one of the basic things for man is to protect his family, right? Protect yourself and protect your family. And so those that we are tasked with doing that, if we get the sense that they are not doing it, we might want to feel we might have to do it for ourselves. So the police need to, through education, through community involvement, get the community involved, get the church involved, educate us, let us know that they have zero tolerance for some of the stuff that they see taking place, and we are going to eradicate it. Strong leadership.
Do you think community police need to revamp strongly in Grenada?
Yes, I do. I believe that the community police and the community interaction. Look, we have a small society here, right? And each one of us knows somebody. Chances are, I think the police force some years ago was just about 1,000 persons. So you have a population of 100,000, right? And you have 1,000 persons in the police force, right? That speaks to what, about almost 10% thereabout, right? Mm-hmm. So chances are most of us either have a relative in the police force and a close friend, a good friend.
Somebody you know.
So, right. And one of the things that you get is that sometimes people in society may not readily want to pick up the phone and call the police station or walk into the police station to give them information, because the community knows what's going on. Trust me, the communities know who the bad elements are, and they would share that, because no matter what the area you live in, every one of us wants a safe community. Every one of us wants to be outside in the moonlight, right? Every one of us wants to walk down the street without the fear of having to duck from bullets, or the fear of somebody with a machete or a knife or so looking to threaten us. So they will pass the information on to the police, but you have to engage the public and let them know, one, that the information that they give you is safe, and two, the information that they give you, you will act upon it.
Gun violence in Grenada has risen a wee bit, more than we have seen it happening. Now we say there have never been gun violence in Grenada before, but to the stage that he has gotten to, of course, just last week we saw double incidents of that happening. What's your take on that, and in terms of the authority dealing with situations of that nature in a more proactive way?
Well, I think that the problem stemmed from, again, operating from a position of strength. When the administration, or those in the administration very early in the tenure of the administration, stated that, hey, we are not too big on guns, and I'm not really a big proponent of having civilians own guns, and if it was up to me, even the police officers probably would not be carrying firearms. When you send that kind of message, you know who else is listening? The bad guys is listening. So when the bad guys hear stuff like that, they know the police is weakened, because the message is the administration is not operating from a position of strength. So when the bad guys hear that, they feel emboldened. And I think that's, with the ease of transshipment between the Caribbean, maybe the U.S., maybe it makes it a lot easier now to put your hands on the firearms and the ammunition. I think we always probably had some guns in Grenada. I think the ammunition is becoming a lot easier to access now. And so you find more of a proliferation of the guns, because now guys had guns and now they're getting the bullets to use these guns. So they get emboldened. And again, social media influences a lot of stuff. You see all of this stuff with who's brandishing gun on YouTube, this, that, whatever. And the young guys feel emboldened.
The influences, what's your take on the influence that we're having? Do you think the young people are having the wrong influence in terms of the crime situation in Grenada today?
I believe so. I mean, and let's just be honest. It's not just Grenada, it's around the world, right? Yes. But we're speaking of Grenada because that's right. So but we don't want to make it feel like it's only Grenada. We know it's an issue around the world. But yes, in Grenada here, I think the influence, again, social media, again, the wrong influence. I think the community is not as involved as when we were growing up, right? They said it took a village to to raise a child. I think we have a more standoffish attitude now. The church is not as involved. The schools is not as involved. The civic organizations is not as involved. So the administrator has to find a way to embrace all these organizations and let them know, look, this is our children. This is our young children and our future. Because as a young kid, the bearing of responsibility may be lacking because, you have a 15 or 16-year-old that's very they're easy to impress, and they don't have that responsibility of a family. They're not really caring for children or a wife or a husband or so. So they are more free. So when persons engage them and then they may be lacking other social and other socioeconomic issues, right? That we might have some socio-economic issues involved with some families. And when people step from the outside and step up to fill that void, that, hey, I can give you this, I can give you food, I can give you clothing, you tend to gravitate towards that, and then the influence from that individual would be meted onto you, and hence,
All right. We're due for a break. Let's take it. We're coming back with more folks. Stay with us here. It's To The Point. It's Opposition Tuesday here on Classic Radio, GBN TV. Let's take that break, folks. We're coming right back.
Planning and Development Authority of Grenada, PDA, is enforcing regulations to curb illegal, disorderly, and unauthorized development in several locations throughout the state of Grenada. The authority is concerned that structures mainly associated with vending are negatively impacting the environment, has undesirable public health and sanitation consequences, present obstructions to vehicle and pedestrian traffic, can become projectiles during adverse weather conditions, and generally affect the aesthetics of the nation. The PDA will work along with stakeholder ministries and institutions to effect the demolition, removal, and disposal of structures which fall in the category of illegal and disorderly development, commencing January 2024. In this regard, persons who vend in or occupy such illegal structures are advised to secure their personal belongings and have the structures removed ahead of the planned PDA demolition operations. These actions of the PDA have become necessary to safeguard and protect public health and the environment, ensure the safety and well-being of all citizens and visitors, discourage any future disorderly construction, and encourage compliance to regulations pertaining to physical development in the state of Grenada. This is a message from the Planning and Development Authority of Grenada.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to this edition of To The Point. It's Opposition Tuesday here. We're representing the NMP, or the opposition here in Grenada. We have Mr. Nimrod Olliverre with me this morning, and our conversation this morning stems from Mr. Nimrod's, of course, background, in law enforcement. We're talking about the issue of the increase in violence and incidents that we see occurring on Ireland lately, and that's the stem of our conversation this morning. My next, of course, question goes to Mr. Nimrod, goes out like this. Public perception. In terms of the recent developments, we have seen reviews. They are mixed, especially when it comes from how the authorities, how we have been dealing with the situation. How do you think the authorities could fix this?
Well, there's a number of ways. There's a number of ways that they can fix it, right? So we're talking the authorities, meaning the administration.
The police, the government as a whole,
and the police.
Security aspect of Grenada as a whole.
I think one of the things the government has to do is that they have to recognize that they have to be engaging, right? We cannot and should not politicize the force, right? The politics within the ranks of the force is detrimental to the police force. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, everyone has different views, right? And in order to get a holistic approach, to get a holistic solution, you have to have different persons at the table. So it doesn't matter who you perceive that I support. The conversation should be centered around whether or not I can make a meaningful contribution towards solving the problems that's now being faced in Grenada. Mm-hmm. Not whether I support NNP or NDC or GULP or TNP. No, it should be about the betterment of Grenada. And so I think the administration is very lacking in that approach, and that culture permeates the police force. I think it was wrong. With some of the things that they did from the onset, and if we seriously want to combat the issue in Grenada here, they need to change the approach.
What do you think is needed a whole lot now in terms of curbing some of the problems, in terms of, let's say, for instance, putting more officers on patrol and stuff like that? Do you think that is something that is needed a whole lot now?
I think there's a number of things that could be done to help mitigate some of the problems, right? We have to, I think the police force, the administration has to work on creating proper funding for some of the departments in the force to help combat some of the issues. We need to invest in Coast Guard. We need to invest in securing our borders. I think our open borders is definitely an issue, both in the north and in the south. I mean, years ago, I know there was a great initiative that they had in the northern corridor of Grenada, and that helped with the drug trade. So maybe if we had something like that working, maybe this unfortunate incident that happened with the alleged murders could have been headed off, because we would have had guys on the ready in the north of the island that, when alerted, could have, maybe help us make up some ground. So I think that's one of the issues. I think we need to improve on our training for street cops, right? I think we need to embrace technology and use technology in policing. We need to definitely put more properly trained officers on patrol, not just putting officers, right? Training officers, in my opinion, 3 weeks, 4 weeks is not sufficient. And it's not just my opinion. It's the school of thought, right? Around internationally. So we need properly trained officers on the street. The RGPF and the administration need to spend more time engaging the youths and make them know that, hey, there's an alternative. So how do you do that? You create programs. There could be police-led programs that you engage the youths in, and you provide means. It could be basketball clinics, soccer clinics. Soccer is a big crave in Grenada right now. Cricket clinics, right? RGPF has always had a good soccer team and some good cricket players. So you use your resources that you have within, and you expand it throughout the community to help take care of the problem. Those are some of the things. There's some more. We could, as the conversation go on, we could.
In the concept of deepening, and coordinating with the community is also an intricate part in terms of, curbing violence. What's your take in terms of involving the community and building that trustworthy relationship, I would say, with individual, and, in terms of passing information on to police and so forth?
That is a definite plus. It's an asset that should be utilized. I strongly believe that community interaction helps the police. There's no way that it's going to be a bad thing. Mm-hmm. So we need to ensure that our communities are kept up to date. Again, we go back, GT. by not recognizing that there is an issue. Because if you don't recognize there's an issue, you may not have the need, or you may not feel the need to go to the community, right? So the first step is to recognize there's an issue. And so, but even before we get to the issue, that relationship should be established before. So when the issue comes up, you can go to the community. And it's not that difficult. Every community, whether it's a street, has a leader, right? Yeah. So you engage those persons, you get those persons, and again, it's not partisan, it's not politics, right? Not because that community leader you might feel they support the other party, you would not want to talk to them. It's the goal here is to make sure that we have a safe society, because each and every one of us wants to make sure we can sit outside at night and enjoy the moonlight. All
right. My next question, of course, it relates also to the issue of guns. You know, we've been hearing a lot about that, a whole lot. It's a talk of the tongue, we could say it recently. How do you think, you know, the police, government, as you know, security personnel and so forth can curb that problem in terms of, especially when it comes to, you know, what could they introduce, I would say?
I believe, I think that they should at this point, because the gun crime, and it was identified by our Prime Minister that the guns are coming. And so one of the first steps he should have done was to instruct the leadership in the police department to establish a gun task force. I think the time has come where it's right to establish a gun task force, because we know there's a proliferation of firearms and ammunition in the nation right now. So you have officers, you establish a task force where officers' sole purpose is establishing relationships with other jurisdictions to the south of the island, to the north of the island, and you coordinate and you track these guns. Because, again, Grenada is small, so oftentimes the players in that industry, that illegal industry, is not many. It's a few. So once you identify them and you track them, because we have the technology where we can track people, I wouldn't say so, but we have the technologies where we can track certain things. All right.
No, let's still cover it in terms of, you know, the policies that should be put in place in terms, you know, illegal firearms coming into the country. And you mentioned it. Grenada don't make guns. We don't make guns.
We make no guns.
What's some of the policies that you think is lacking, that we having this problem that we are seeing now in Grenada?
Well, again, the policy that it's lacking and glaring is that there's no strength from the administration. There's no strength from the police force, right? So some of the policies, that one policy that they could probably adopt, introduce a gun buyback policy, because I think there's a lot of people here that have firearms that really don't want it, and they might be willing to get rid of it, right? I don't know, because it worked around the world. Right, but and even if you do it for a month and you get 5 or 10 firearms off the street, guess what? That's 5 or 10 firearms that's not in a bad guy's hand. Right. But again, we have to operate from a position of confidence, right? Because this has to be anonymous. This can be, you know, you establish the program, there's ways, and you develop it, and that would help get some of our guns off the street. The other thing is, you have to ensure that your police is equipped to deal with some of the stuff that's happening in the street, right? I mean, it's blaringly scary when in the middle of the day, in above the St. George's Market, we could have guys pulling guns on each other, right? Yes, the guys may be shooting at each other, but there's innocent people walking by, and it's St. George's, one of our busiest cities. And then in a retaliatory move, or whether or not it's connected or not connected, Grandlands, that corridor there, it's a busy corridor. What's next? If we don't act and trying to take care of it now, who knows where it might end up.
All right. Now, from an opposition point of view, in the state of crime in Grenada, what's the opposition really, in terms of the conversation you have with the opposition leader and other members of the National Party as the opposition? What's their take on the crime situation in Grenada?
Well, the NNP position is that the crime is becoming very alarming, and there's no leadership both at the administrative branch and at the police branch that's effectively dealing with the problem. We think they may kicking the buck down the road or not recognizing it. And so the NNP's position is that they are calling on the administration to do something. And to do something now. Develop policies, develop strategies. Let us get the streets safe once more.
Is the NNP saying nothing has been done? Is that what the NNP is saying?
I think the NNP's position is, if anything is being done, we are not aware of it in the public per se.
Yeah.
And or maybe not enough is being done because the problem still persists.
All right. We drew for a break again. We're coming right back, folks. Stay with us. It's To The Point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We take a break. We're coming right back with more. Mr. Evelyn Nimrod representing, of course, the NNP or the opposition here in Grenada. We'll be right back after the break.
I want you to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath and relax yourself. Take another deep breath and relax it, and relax it. Eliminate violence.
Mentioned the wing carry, then you have things like man, you must come back, We have the low pole there.
It is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for a piece of cake, I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page, and YouTube channel for We Culture.
Who does man of the party? Tell them it's 4-7 trade. Shout it, let them know where we represent 4-7 trade. Who's the body's passing? 4-7 trade. Them no crazy like. Rock the box, we say, yeah. GBN, we say, arts and culture living, yeah. Rock the box, we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box, we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box, we say. We'll be jamming here on a Thursday. It's a
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV for today, Tuesday, the 27th of February, Opposition Tuesday. Of course, Nimrod is me this morning. That's Mr. Nimrod Olliverre, representing the New National Party. And we're speaking, of course, of the crime situation in Grenada, from Mr. Nimrod's, of course, law enforcement background. And he's speaking from his point of view, representing the New National Party. Now, let's get into a question that I may want to ask. Grenada's law enforcement challenges. There are challenges here in Grenada in terms of law enforcement. From a New National Party, from your background in law enforcement, what are some of the challenges or remedies that you maybe think you could offer if they, of course, the authority will accept?
Well, I think currently we are experiencing a lot of violence in our culture. Right, and you have the firearm, but you also have, we saw the videos making the rounds with the machetes and we hearing of the stabbings and rapes and the robberies and all of that. So there's a lot of violence there's notable violence in our community now, and that culture has to be stopped. Like I stated earlier on, we have to get the community involved, the schools, the civil society, the churches. Each and every one of them must be involved and do their part. And we cannot make the culture, the current violent culture that we are experiencing, we cannot make it a political one, because crime knows no color. Crime sometimes doesn't even know who the resultant victim will be, because we could be part of crime innocent, wrong place, wrong time, sometimes, as they say, right? So we that has to be a problem. We have to take a systematic look at the root cause of the crime and what's causing the social decay in our society. We cannot allow the disorder to run rampant. So we have to come up with programs and interventions that would be treated equally in the eyes of law enforcement to help take care of some of the problems that we are taking care of. With all of the crime, look, crime, and when we talk national security, we tend to think that crime alone is national security. No, national security is a holistic thing. It involves your immigration, it involves your coast, it involves agriculture, it involves your health of your nation, your hospital. It involves a number of different things. So in order to fully understand national security, you have to get persons from each and every one of these entities involved and come up with viable solutions in order for us to combat and take care of this problem.
Do you think there's a lack in terms of the investment into the police in Grenada that may be a cause for the problems that we are seeing today in terms of not having that vibrant police force as we used to?
I believe, yes, there is there's a need. There's definitely a lack in the investment tools. You hear it all the time from police officers complaining that they don't have transportation, right? So the administration needs to make a significant investment, because GT, one of the things that I can tell you, human beings has basic needs, right? Yeah. Food, shelter, stuff like that, and as you move up, it changes as you're placed in society. Police officers oftentimes, it doesn't even take much to make them happy. They come into work, they want to make sure that they have a proper vehicle working. They want to make sure they have the proper tools to do their job. So it's incumbent on the administration to invest in the police officers, make their working environment a little more welcoming. And you're going to hear people saying, well, who was there before and who didn't do it? And the point is, this is what's there now. So if you have the administration now and they know that and they recognize that because that was part of their campaign, fix it. Make the police officers happy. Make them feel like they belong there and they want to be there. It's unsat that a guy is doing, he did a shift, 8 hours or 10 hours, and then maybe he has to rest for 4 or 5 hours on a piece of cardboard, and when rain falls, he's getting wet. If you know these problems existed, fix it.
Someone may say, or a listener or viewer to say, or the public may have the perception of the view right now. Problems that we're seeing thrown out from the police today hasn't started now. It may have stemmed back from the previous administration, even the previous administration. There have always been problems with the police.
Yes.
You understand? What would you like to see you see done that could curb that problem?
Well, the police force should be independent enough. The leaders of the police force should be advocating for their men. You can't have a strong police force without a strong leader. So it's the executive, the commissioner's job to advocate for his men. He should be constantly fighting to get things done for his men. We all know you have the government, who is the administrators or the administration for Grenada and a whole, but you have entities that fall under these administration. And so if you don't advocate and bring it to the forefront and let them know, look, you have men that are defending the country. We don't have an army. Our first line and our last line of defense is the police force. So let's equip them with what's needed to take care of the problem. So for us to sit, it's disingenuous for us to sit and say, well, so-and-so didn't do it 10 years ago, and why are you bringing it up now? You're bringing it up now because, one, the administration that's there now campaigned on it. They recognize it, that it was an issue, and they campaigned on it. And police officers and civilians may have championed and said, yes, you know what, you're right. But now that you are in governance, then govern.
Some would say they only been there for just a year and months.
A year and months is a long time. A year and months is a long time. And at least if you don't get everyone fixed, start somewhere. Show us that you mean business. Show the police officers that you truly, truly deserve for them to vote for you. A year and months is a long time, especially in political life.
A question that I want to ask, that travesty that occurred in terms of the escaping the prisoners from the, of course, the consequence of what has occurred, the international attention that we are now receiving because of that incident. What's your take on that? Where do you think the failure has come about from?
Well, I think the failure, again, the buck stops at the top, right? And if we back up, I think just about between a month and 3 weeks prior to this incident, someone would have escaped from that location, right? So in all honesty, from that same location, there's 4 prisoners that escaped. Now, if there's an issue, and that issue was not rectified. I tried hard yesterday to try to get the answer for that question, but the answer for that was, I think Mr. Worm was asking that question yesterday, and it was not. The police commissioner was not very forthcoming. But if there was an issue,
I think he did said he visited the
right,
establishment.
But visited is not saying he said he visited it and it was safe. But that's not answering whether or not the repairs were done after the first escape. And I think Mr. Worm was very clear in asking, was the repairs done? Right? So it's a big difference that you visit and you're saying that you visit and if the protocols were followed, that would not have happened. We don't know that. But I think that what happened could have been avoided, right? If we know that there were some issues there, maybe the 3 prisoners should not have been housed there to begin with. Maybe they should have been brought to a more secure location. The fact that the 3 guys were committing the crimes, some of the crimes together, maybe they should have been separated. Bring one in the fire station, one in St. Paul's, keep one there. So there are a number of little mitigating factors that we could have utilized, right? Your manpower itself at the location. If you have 3 guys working on a shift and 3 prisoners, I don't know. I want to be at an advantage. I'm not sure that's a good rationale, right? But it comes back to the basic thing that we need more police officers, right? But what I would like to see coming out for that, I hope that we just don't whitewash it and look to penalize just the junior guys. I strongly believe that they have to take and the commissioner indicated as much that they are doing an investigation. Even though he said that they were doing the investigation, I think he may have prejudiced it by saying, well, I visited there and I think the cell was adequate and what happened should not have happened, had protocol. Let the investigation bring that out. But by you saying that, it says where your position already is. And I do hope that they go up the food chain, even up to the office of the Commissioner of Police for any failures that occurred during that that incident and that persons are held accountable for what happened.
All right. Hey, folks, we got it at that stage of the morning. We are 15 minutes moving up before the top of the hour this morning. At this stage, we want to entertain your phone calls from your listeners and viewers. If you do have a question or two, it relates to our conversation this morning, feel free to do so. Let's take our first caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning to you all, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Yeah, I want to chip in on a little things there. Well, the gentleman making some good points there, and the program is good. Identifying and making your workers comfortable. Now, one way that we can, you don't even have to go about the arms and the guns and the what, and bulletproof vest. You can know that the police is not comfortable. Go on the carnage and stand up right by where the Carriacou vessel is loading and look up at the fire station. Windows are broken, hinges up. So you know that they're not comfortable. Water coming in. And lots of other police stations are like that. You pass in Monija and you look going up on the side by Spice Island and you look at the top where the police housing. You can see louvers break. You've seen bed. So you know something is wrong. In the early years of Sir Eric, did you know that the police had a canteen where they don't even, some of the wives have to, that's where they come and make groceries. They have a kitchen that when the policemen come out from a duty, they go in and get a breakfast, even though they have to pay for it, but they pay and they order, so when they come in, they get something, they get lunch. That is easing up on the pressure. And all policemen know when they go in the station, they have to go and provide for themselves. Huh? So that is another way. Look at going to our borders. Our borders is not secured. We don't have the equipment to do that. We don't have the proper Coast Guard. Look from up here. You start from St. Vincent right all up to Barbados. Don't even go to Martinique and them places like St. Lucia. When the Barbados Coast Guard come here, or all these coasts, you open up, the Barbados Coast Guard have a helicopter in it, and they have big boats. We don't have these things. Now, look, as growing up as a young guy, it's a lot of things. Keep giving the youth now chance to do things. When I was growing up as a young guy on the sea coast, by where I live, we have 10 places as boys, groups of boys, we can go and fish in the afternoon and the night as recreation to keep us away. Out of the 10, there's no way that I can go there now. So the modernization is doing a lot of us. Look at it, in Mr. Gary days, I can tell you, in St. George's alone, there were 13 steel bands, right? And most of them were sponsors. You know, the amount of youths, I was a youth too, the amount of us, when in our band, we had 30-something boys in the band, and all these bands they had sponsors. And that is where youths are getting, these avenues are where youths going in, getting in. We had, in the days, Mr. Gary, they had a problem with the same with the youths and the guys doing something. They're pulling over 200 of the youths on the street around and bring them in the fort and talk to them, give them a book and go back into the village so that they can talk to the other younger ones, influence them. That all these things are things. We had so much netball teams that you can go and do these things. No, all we have is a lot of foreign influence, people coming in, building, then when the young people get a job now, they don't want to pay them, so it's a whole set of things. And the governments and them, they're not seeing these things. All they're seeing is a hotel coming to build, a foreigner coming to do some money but they're taking away a lot of things for us. Look at all where the big building is.
Caller, will actually take another 10 seconds and wrap, please.
Yeah.
We appreciate your contribution.
Right. All where I used to grow up in the small days, where I had how much cows, what I would have pig, you could go fowls, people could do a little gardening there. There's no, the place is minimizing and the youth is getting everything in a corner. You used to play hopscotch and bobo all about in the bush. Now, if you have children have to play hopscotch and bobo, the cost for one child to play hopscotch and bobo and top and thing is $1,000 because every parents have to buy a phone for $1,000 to give one child to play hopscotch and bobo. And when we used to play natural, is a whole 1,000, we playing tag of war kind of thing.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's go to another caller. Another caller via the WhatsApp. Caller via the WhatsApp. Good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
Nimrod. Mr. Nimrod, I've been listening to you on a couple of shows to the Shell and Scott and something you're calling in the morning. I'm concerned in the same violence we have been. Mr. Nimrod, my son is a police officer in the active member of the NYPD. And you know, crime is not something that you could just go away just like that. You know what I mean? We even know the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, also was a police officer. Right now he's the mayor. And you know, we still have the problem with the gun situation. And still that before Eric Adams, you know, we had the buyback program where they bring in the guns and they get money. My question to you, Mr. Nimrod, all right, do you know that the police department that we have in Grenada is still the police were there from the black administration? All right, and then you know that when there is an epidemic with guns and gun violence, you know, it takes time. I just say the community service, which you right and all these things, and you know, the police have to get involved. But every time that you ask a question, I realize you're taking a job about the administration. You say they come here to be political, but yet I'm still here. You saying about the campaign and this, the campaign and that. Okay. Let me go back. Most of the violence is happening in St. George's, as we know, the area. We know somebody has. Tell me what you doing to help the situation instead of you coming on the radio and trying both sides to take a job at the administration. Tell me what you personally doing, seeing that you have the experience from the active.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. Any response to the caller?
The first part I didn't really hear, but I heard the second part. But you know, just so that the caller understand, yes, we know that crime, especially gun crimes, is not going to solve initially. But if I believe, or maybe I did indicate, maybe he might be in the U.S. And the caller would be aware that New York City was one of the worst cities in the 90s as it regards to gun violence and crimes. And to date, New York is one of the biggest safe cities, one of the safest big cities in the U.S. And that's a fact. How did that happen? It happened because New York, the administrators in New York recognized that there was a crime problem and implement policies and strategies. So you went from where there was 2,000 homicides a year to now New York is 200 or 300 homicides a year. You're dealing with 9-10 million people passing through the city on a daily basis, right? So I believe the second part of the question was, what am I doing? I've always engaged, not in an official capacity, but engaged with police officers and offered my my whatever knowledge that I have regarding certain situations. When I was active in NYPD, police officers, administrators, executives reached out to me to assist with certain investigations that they may have had, and I readily do. So I always stand ready. The New National Party stands ready to assist, but you cannot help if no one wants your help or your assistance. The RGPF, so that the caller understand, is near and dear to me. I feel very, very, very close to the RGPF because I live here. And even when I lived in the United States, I've always been an integral part in trying to help better the RGPF. If they reach out to me and they need assistance, whether it's equipment, whether it's this, that, I will provide it because, again, I believe in ensuring that the lives of the police officer are made easy. And if you listen to me in one of the programs, he would know that I said there's some equipment. As a matter of fact, last week, some equipment was given that I personally gave to the police department to help with firefighting issues. And I said on one of the programs that I have equipment that some counterparts in NYPD reached out to me for, namely vests and some other stuff that they use that's waiting to be shipped to the police department. Right. In terms of advice, and so if anybody engages me, I would assess. All right. Yep.
We do have another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, sir, and good morning to your guests. Well, I think moral have a lot to do with it, because I think the police force have low moral right now because of the bashing they're getting from different sectors. I went in a particular place in court, and I met an officer, and the officer was saying that they're hungry. So I said, "Why are you hungry? Because you're on work, you're hungry." She said, well, the officer said, "I worked yesterday, whole day yesterday, and I'm doing a double shift. I'm supposed to get breakfast, and up to now, breakfast haven't reached us yet." So I said, "Call the station and tell them you're hungry." The officer proceeded to use their phone. They had no credit, so I gave them my phone to call. And the officer called the station and speak to the person they needed to speak to. I said, "Officer, look, I'm hungry. My breakfast haven't reached us yet, so make sure I get my breakfast." The officer who they spoke to said, "Okay, you'll get your breakfast." After an hour, the officer called back. Lo and behold, the officer that person spoke to said, "Breakfast done." So I had to take my money, go out in an area and buy some breakfast for that officer, which is something I am proud of. But the point I'm making is that if you send an officer out there to work and you don't look after them, what's wrong with that? I mean, come on, you're supposed to look after your officers when they're out in the field. So I think a low moral of the officers contributing to all the problem we have in this country right now. Have a nice day, brother.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Anything you want to, of course, probably in terms of what the caller said?
Yes, I think we touched on it, but I will just make this comment that yes, the quality of life, while the quality of life for us in society matters, the quality of life for the officers does matter. And simple things like making sure they eat a proper meal and they get adequate time and rest, those things are important. I believe it's evident officers are showing that there's some stress and there is definite lack of morale. The morale is low, and the RGPF, it would benefit them to engage, maybe bring in a couple counselors, talk to the officers and make sure that they are peace of mind and that they can function in the safest and the best environment for them to execute their jobs.
All right, let's go to the WhatsApp. Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, sir. How long these problems been going on with the police department? Could you tell me that?
He's asking how long the problem's been going on with the police.
Again, I'm quite sure that the problems didn't happen, or some of the problems.
Is it weeks, months, or years? Is it weeks, months, or years? Because if it's years, the past administration should have put things in place to solve these problems. This government just got into power, right? And they're trying to fix it. And you bashing them. This is not right. I live in New York for 30 years. My cousin was a cop too. And they had what they want. They had what they had because they could afford it. There's not things in place, sir. Look at the sidewalk. Look at gun violence in the Market Square. These things didn't just happen yesterday or last week, you know. Look at the Bartholomew guy thing in St. David's up there. So these things should have been put in place. And when this government got into power, we could have followed the sequence. But it has not been put in place. So they're trying to put it in place now. So don't come with this nonsense.
All right, thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Caller, good morning. You're welcome. We have another caller. Let's take another caller.
How that happened, GT?
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning to your guest. I'll tell you something. A slip of the tongue is sufficient for us, so we know that. We get the point. I'll tell you something. I'm hearing so much, but we are not touching the point. I will ask your guest. If he could tell me how much students are turning out of school every year, and how much of them you put in to work, and how many jobs it have in the society, and how many persons to the job. I said that to say, sir, that the economy is not growing to take care of those people that we turn it and the society. Take, for instance, and GT, I will challenge you. Walk from Las Vegas to Koshukabi and see the condition of these old-time roads since Fedon's time. Same condition. And the condition of those beaches. Are we really interested in changing scenario? We are talking about crime, but we have to prevent crime. It's not dealing with the crime, but preventing the crime. And if we are going to do those things to prevent the crime, putting people to work, putting the young people to work, getting them occupied, yeah? It's not putting them to play. That's going to solve the problem. You have to give them meaningful opportunities to develop. We fail in that. I think our politicians are confused. They have lost their way, and they're struggling to get back on foot. Listen to us, who are contributing on a daily basis. Take this advice and put it to work. Grow the economy. Deal with the infrastructure. Create space for the business people to expand, to create jobs, create opportunities for the young people and the society generally. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Mr. Nuri, I don't know if you want to respond to anything that the caller may have said, and we get some closing comments. We're about to wrap for the morning.
Yes, the caller raised some valid points. It's some socio-economic issues, and so he, I spoke on it, and yes, it's not going to happen overnight, and with the previous caller, you raised the point of, how long the issues happening, and if things were put in place, it would be continuity. Well, we know that when the NMP left office, the NDC took over, and we see the changes that were made at the top of the police force for those that they perceive were NMP, and they moved them out. So you would have no continuity there. Something cannot continue if you come and you dismantle it, because and I know for a fact that the NMP had programs, or the RGPF had programs that came up under the NNP administration, and they would not implement them because they were devised by the NNP. So sometimes, we just have to be careful, and we can't always look at things from a partisan point of view without having, some facts. I also want to say, look, we were told by this administration with these same changes that I just spoke of that they brought back some people because there was no succession plan. and so they would have moved out persons based on who they were married to in the NNP or who they perceively support. But you can't have a succession plan if you are not functioning right. If your functionality is flawed. How effective would be your succession plan? So we have to take a look going forward. We could all sit here and say, well, let's blame. How long would the blame game continue? The point is, this is current. We are experiencing it now. The NNP and a vast majority of Grenadians is calling on the administration and the RGPF to acknowledge there is an issue. Let us work together to solve the issue so that we can ensure Grenada is as safe as possible.
All right. Of course, I want to thank you once again, Mr. Olliverre, for being on the program this morning. Pleasure having you here. So we hope we'll have you back again. Of course, we'll talk on other matters. Hey, folks, that will be take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. Until again, folks, join us again. Have yourself a good one. That's where we say goodbye.